Awesome. So today we are going to be talking about lightening and illuminating. So we are going to explore all the different options that ASP has within our lightning ranges. And then we're also going to talk about illumination with hot shots. So first up, we've got 7 different lighteners. Each of them is going to be special in its own way. We've recently streamlined our system for identifying each of these lighteners. So they're now going to be identified by levels of lift rather than a very specific name. And we'll get into that a little bit with each product as we go along. But I do also just want to point out that we do have some new packaging that should be hitting shelves soon. Instead of using the single-use plastic containers, everything will now be in a bag because it's better for the environment. So this is our cheat sheet for our lighteners. This is a really great page for you guys to screenshot or to take notes on. This is going to give you the what, which is going to tell you how many levels of lift you're going to get from the product. It's going to tell you things like if you can use it on or off the scalp, which developers you can use. This cheat sheet is also going to give you the why. So what makes each particular lightener special and why you might choose it. It's also going to have a few notes on it for some of our support items like the System Blonde anti-yellow additive. So if you aren't familiar with the anti-yellow additive, it is one of my hero products that I definitely cannot live without. It is just a violet toned pigment that you are going to mix right into your lighteners. And this is going to help kind of alleviate some of those unwanted yellow tones when we are lightening. So it's just a really great mix-in product. And then we also have just a little blurb of information here that's going to talk about Vitaplex. It's going to talk about protein additive. And then it's also got a little blurb about Color Your Way, which are just some of the things that we commonly mix into our lighteners. So it's just going to give you a couple little hints and tricks about those. All right, so we are going to talk about our more conventional lighteners first. First up is going to be System Blonde 9-level lightener. This is our newest to the lineup. It's a top-notch conventional lightener, and it's definitely a favorite amongst the education team. This is going to give you up to 9 levels of lift. It's going to contain Zia Maze, which is going to protect the inner structure of the hair as we're lightening. It has guar gum in it, which is going to help for scalp comfort. And then it also has maltose in it, which is going to moisturize and improve the condition of the hair. So I often get asked if we have a lightener that has a built-in bond builder. The short answer is no, we don't. But with a lightener like System Blonde 9 that has all of these ingredients that are going to give you protection for the scalp and moisturize and improve the condition, we don't need one that has it built in because our products are so gentle to begin with. But then like on the other sheet that I just showed you, we do have things that are going to give you that extra protection like Vitaplex or Cotopa protein additive, okay? So with the 9-level lightener, you're going to mix in a 1:2 mixing ratio. You can use 10 volume, 20 volume, 30 volume, or 40 volume. If you are using this on the scalp, we definitely recommend only using 10 or 20 volume. It's going to stay active for up to 60 minutes. You can use this for all of your applications, all of your techniques. So whether it's foil, it's balayage, it's on the scalp, any lightening service that you're doing, you can definitely reach for this lightener. If you are doing a heat process with this one, we recommend only using 10 or 20 volume, although it's generally not necessary to put this under the heat. And then if you are doing on scalp application, we do not cover it and we do not recommend using heat. Okay.
You know what I love about System 9, Kristen, and I know that you do too, is when you're doing like a double process blonde, you're doing like, you know, the mids and the ends, and then you have to go back and apply at the root area. There is nothing worse than trying to get through the mids and the ends section by section to go back and do the root. It is lightener gets sticky, it kind of dries out a little bit and it gets difficult to work with. System 9 does not do that. You can actually like section it and glide it through, and it has a slip to it, which makes it so much more workable. So I've always go to this lightener when I'm doing something like that. And I know we've talked about it. You do too.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so here are some examples of work that has been done using System Blonde 9. You can see it's going to give you maximum lift, but it's still going to leave your client with that beautiful, shiny, healthy hair. My model here on the left, she actually has a natural level 4, and you can see how light she gets. I only use 20 volume on her, and then I process her for about 40 minutes. She's not toned, so it's going to give you that really nice, clean lift. I do use the anti-yellow shampoo and conditioner on her, but like I said, you can see it just gives you that really beautiful, clean, crisp lift. And then these are just some other models that were done using this. You can see from the photos, like this lightener is really going to give you a variety of looks. We've got more of a golden kind of honey blonde. We've got more of a, I guess you could call it a light caramel. We've got some platinum on the scalp action. Just a variety of different looks that you can totally achieve with this lightener. All right, so next up is going to be our System Blonde 7. This was formerly known as Light, and you can see on the package that it's going to indicate that for you until we're all more familiar with calling them by the number. So again, we kind of talked about the packaging before. These are going to start coming in a bag rather than the single-use plastic, but rest assured, it's the same wonderful lightener. I'm not going to lie, this is my hands down favorite lightener just because of its versatility. I'm a light girl. I know a lot of us love all of our different lighteners, but this is by far my favorite. It comes in a blue powder and a white powder. I prefer the white powder. The blue doesn't actually give you any tonality to it. It's not actually going to do anything for the lifting. It's just going to kind of mask it so that when your client sees it, they don't freak out that it's yellow. You know what I mean? But it doesn't actually give it any toning capability. So it's the exact same powder, comes in blue and white. This is going to give you up to 7 levels of lift. It's got hydrolyzed silk in it, which is going to offer cuticle protection. And then it's got the guar gum in it as well, which is going to give you scalp comfort. For mixing, we're going to mix in a 1:2 mix ratio. You can use all of your different developers, so 10 through 40. For on the scalp, we recommend 10 or 20 volume. This is going to be active for up to 60 minutes. Again, it's suitable for all applications and techniques. You can use this with heat. And then if you're going to put it on the scalp, we recommend no heat. One of my favorite things about this is that I really like the consistency of it. Even mixing in a 1:2, it sounds like it's going to be runny, but honestly, none of our lighteners are runny. But I do also want to point out that if you aren't mixing your lightener with a scale, you should be, because it's going to give you the maximum amount of lift and the proper saturation for each lightener, okay? So here are some examples of System Blonde 7 being used in real life. Like I said earlier, 99% of the time, this is the lightener that I choose. It's just my favorite. It's my go-to. These are just some models that I've done. And then this is actually one that Heather did. So again, you can see it's going to give you a variety of lift. You know, you can get a little more of those golden tones. Just, you know, an all-around conventional lightener. But I do want to show you guys, so this is my short stack technique. The 2 models that I had in the previous slide, I used this technique on them. So this is going to be a partial foil application. And what I do is I take from the high point of the head, and I'm going to part down to right behind the ear. So I have my front section, and then I have my back section. And I actually stack my foils. So I'm starting at their part line and then stacking all of my foils up. But if you weave your foils and then you fold them into little packets, you can still use this technique. But it's going to allow you to be super fast and cover a lot of ground. So like I said, I start off parting off my front sections from the high point of the head to right behind the ear. I always start in the front because with most of the looks today, people are wanting that lighter, brighter pop by their face. So this allows me to start with my lower developer in the front, give it a longer processing time. So low and slow is going to win the race. 10 volume is going to get you just as light as a 40 volume. It's just going to take a little bit longer. So most of the time, the hair right around our face is more fragile. So by starting with the lower developer and just letting it sit a little bit longer, I'm going to be able to get that same amount of lightness without having to trash their hair. Okay. Whoops. Got a little too excited.
Hey, I have a question at Shauna.
Yes. Hi, Shauna.
Hi. How did you and Heather on that last picture that you showed? Yeah, both of their hair, just like, did you weave it, or it just looks that beautiful, effortless? Like you can't tell any lines. You can't.
Yeah. So on my two models here, I used the short stack technique that I'm talking about now. This one is more of a slice, and then the girl in the middle is more of a weave. But honestly, it depends. For me, it totally depends on how fast I want to go. Even with a slice on this technique, I don't feel like you get a ton of lines. And the reason for that is I do diagonal forwards in the front. So you can see on this little head sheet here, right by the ear, I bring those at a diagonal forward, which is going to give me a brighter pop of color, but it's still going to diffuse super nicely when they pull their hair back.
Okay. So it kind of goes from the hairline up on a diagonal.
Yep. So from their hairline, diagonal back. So you can kind of see like right above the ear, I generally have a little pocket of depth there.
Okay. And you leave like you know, with your System Blonde, you put that in a foil and then leave a piece of hair out. And do you color that with something else or no?
I typically don't color anything else with my leave, but you totally could. Like if you were doing a low light or a root application, you could definitely do that.
Because I feel like maybe my packets slip, or I might have like a little bit of a, right at the root, like.
Yeah. So what I generally do is I stack my foils. So what I do is like I'll put, take my weave, apply that to the foil, and then I'll stack another foil on top of it.
Okay.
And then I will use something like pastelizer on my leaf section just so that it has something to stick the hair to the foil.
Oh, so you'll put pastelizer right on the root of the other hair that you left out?
Correct. Yep.
That helps.
And then I put my next foil on top, and it's really just so that my foil has something to stick to.
Okay.
And then I will bring down my next section, put my lightener on, and stuck my foil. So at the end of my, say that again.
What does the pastelizer do? Is it just a deep conditioner kind of, or no?
Pastelizer is from the Color Dynamics line. And it's basically a conditioner, but it's used to dilute your color dynamics into more of a pastel shade. Yeah, but I really like it because it adds a ton of shine. It's super conditioning, and it's inexpensive to apply to a leaf. So
I'll use pastelizer a lot too if they have a very, very small root and it's difficult to not overlap, but it seems like there's almost like not enough of a root to get the lightener to actually stick to the foil really well, like almost like the hair just wants to come up. I'll use the pastelizer just through the mid shafts and the ends. And then the same thing, I'll stack a foil on top of it. That way I get that hair really, really sticking to the foil. So I make sure that I don't get any kind of slippage. So I'll do that way. Or if I don't need to brighten the ends at all, sometimes I'll just do that as well. And it really depends on how you foil. If you're putting the foil down and then you're folding up and you're doing origami, or, are you just folding them once and then folding them all again at the end, all as one section? Or if you're doing what Kristen does, which stacks it, obviously the less moving of the foils that you do, the better.
Okay.
So the more movement you get, the more kind of slip that you get. But you guys also have color your way as an option. If you feel like you're using it at a 1-to-2 ratio and it's just not thick enough, or you're used to using something thicker, you can use your color your way, which is a color thickener that comes in a powder or a liquid. So you can go ahead and add that to your lightener. It's not going to change its ability to lift. It's not going to change your timing or dilute your developer at all, but it's just going to be able to change that consistency so you feel like you get a little bit more aggressive texture or hold to your lightener. That way you don't get slippage.
Yeah, and I mean, I knew what the pastelizer was as far as for the color dynamics, but I didn't know it was for like shine and.
Oh yeah. So the
Okay.
cool thing about pastelizer too is if you use it alone without diluting it with anything, it just acts like a shine service.
Oh,
So if I've got a client in the chair that's just in for a haircut, I don't just want her haircut price. I want to upsell that service. So I'll like the first time do a pastelizer shine treatment on them in place of the conditioner. So shampoo the hair, towel dry it, use the pastelizer from root to end, and I'll let that process. And I give that to them at no charge the first time because they're never going to rebook a haircut and say they liked it when their hair was more dull and less manageable. So after that, I've just got that client forever on a clear shine that I didn't have to mix up or anything. I could just pump it right out of the container, leave it at my back bar.
okay. And how
In
long?
the past, oh, go ahead. How long?
Yeah.
Yeah, so anywhere between 15 and 30 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So, usually I'll do it for 15. It's an easy add-on. And guys, the profitability on doing that service, Kristen, do you know what your cost for pastelizer is?
I don't.
I want to like around me, I want to say it's like $14.95 or 15 or something. So I pretty much charge for the amount of time that the product's left on. So if they're going to leave it on for 30 minutes, it's going to have more longevity. So I'm going to charge $30 for that add-on on a haircut. So, but the actual bottle only cost me $14.95. So your profitability on that on average is like 400%, which is amazing.
Okay.
I have it built into my highlight price because I use it. And I charge it. I think it comes out to about an extra $10 to $15 per head.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And I'm using just a small amount of it.
Yeah, and blonde hair doesn't reflect light. It absorbs light. It's trying to bring anything in. So it's hard a lot of times to make blondes look really, really shiny. So a pastelizer or illuminator is a great service to just stack on top of that, especially if you're not toning, just to make it seem like it has a lot of life and brightness to it.
The illuminator, is that the?
Are you talking about that later, Kristen?
Illuminator?
The illuminator?
We're talking about illuminating with hot shots later.
Okay.
But within this technique, we're talking about the color dynamics pastelizer.
Okay.
So
thanks.
Sure. So then with this technique in the back, I just do more of a bricklay pattern. And this is just going to help me kind of create pockets of depth, especially on those clients that kind of want a more rootier look, but still want their highlights to go all the way down to their scalp. So I just have one big section in the back and I work from the top to the bottom and I literally just bricklay them in. So you can see like at this point here, I'll start with one foil and then I do two, and then I do three, and then I just kind of figure out how they fit in there. Rather than having like super specific sections, I just kind of bricklay it. The benefit to that is, like I said, it's going to help you create little pockets of depth, which is going to help give you more of that grown out lived in color. But it's also going to be nice for, I'm not one to like super section off things. I kind of like to work a little more organically. So this just allows me to see on the head where I want the color to be without having to be within a certain section, if that makes sense. Do you have any other questions on the short stack technique? No? All right. Awesome. So those were our two most conventional lighteners. Now we are going to talk about our ammonia-free lighteners. So this is System Blonde 7 ammonia-free. This was formerly known as ice cream. It's going to be incredibly efficient. Comes in two variants. So it's going to have a fresh mint, which is going to be that blue powder, and then an apple, which is going to be a white powder. This is going to give you up to 7 levels of lift. It is gentle yet powerful because it's going to utilize those lower developers for maximum lift. We are going to mix in a 1:2 mix ratio. We are only going to be using 10 volume and 20 volume for this one. Like I said, it's going to give you, utilize those lower developers for a maximum amount of lift. So I always equate this to using 10 volume is equivalent to the results that you would typically get with using a 30 volume. And using 20 volume is going to give you results typically associated with using a 40 volume. Does that make sense for everybody?
That's one of my favorite features of ice cream is that you can start in the back of the head where the hair is really dark with a nice low developer that's going to give you a lot more muscle and everything can be done at the same time. But I think this is an incredibly underused product and it's a shame because it is amazing. You can keep that hair in good condition but get max liftability by keeping your developers low.
Yep, absolutely. So this is going to stay active for up to 60 minutes, suitable for all applications and techniques. If you are using this on the scalp, we definitely recommend sticking with 10 volume because remember that's going to give us results typically associated with using a 30 volume. And then this product is not designed to go under heat. Like Heather just kind of said, I find myself reaching for this one when I want to grab a higher developer, but I personally like to only use 20 volume at the most when I'm doing lightening services, just because I like to really make sure I can keep the integrity of the hair. So a product like this is amazing because I can get those higher, more impactful lightening options, but still using 20 volume. So here we have some examples of System Blonde 7 ammonia-free in action. This girl on the right here is, I'm sorry, that's the left. On the left, she is a natural level 3. And again, she's someone that I would typically reach for a higher developer for because she is a natural level 3. She is part Asian, so her hair is that really like kind of medium coarse, stubborn, doesn't really like to lift. But with this lightener, I can use 20 volume and still get those perfect light results. So that is when I find myself reaching for this one, is when I want to use those higher developers, but I don't actually want to use a higher developer. And then we've got my girl in the middle here. She's got very fine hair, but again, we like it to be that really light, super bold platinum-y color. So again, someone I would typically reach for a higher developer with, but I choose this lightener so that I don't have to go with a higher developer.
I have a quick question again. This is Shauna.
Yeah.
Maybe you already covered this and I missed it. This anti-yellow in the System Blonde, do you guys use that every time or just if you need to?
I don't use it every single time, but it is definitely one of my favorite products. On the girl in the middle here, she definitely has anti-yellow mixed into her lightener, just because we are going for that more cool toned look. But on my first girl here, I don't add it, mostly because her natural is a level 3, and anti-yellow additive is recommended for bases 7, 8, and 9, because that's when we're fighting yellow.
Okay.
Somebody like Aubrey here, where she's a natural level 3, it's not really going to do much until I get her light enough. And by then I would need to remix. So does that make sense, Shauna?
Yeah, so you only use it if they're like a natural level 7, 8, 9.
Yep, correct.
Thanks.
Yep, but you could lift somebody to an 8, 9, and then remix with that in there.
Okay.
And do it again.
Okay, thanks.
It's really just a matter of like efficiency and what you're going to have to do later. If you're starting at a level 3 and you're using yellow to neutralize, you're working through a lot more serious warm tones down in the lower levels that the violet's really not going to do a bunch for you. So the efficiency of that product is kind of wasted in a situation like that. So to reach for it and use it and have that as part of your cost per service is just kind of irrelevant, to be honest with you. And even if you're in a situation where you know that no matter how much anti-yellow additive in, you're going to go in and tone, because maybe you're doing something like an apricot blonde where you're going to have to go in and put those refined tones back in, it's not exactly worth it to even use it. Just instead omit it from your formula and work with the warmth that's going to lift naturally on its own and go in that way. So really your anti-yellow is going to be mostly when you're trying to get more natural or more cool refined blonde tones. If you're working on trying to get a nice warm blonde, it's not really worth it to use it. Just be mindful of the cost that you spent on it and if it's really going to give you a lot of gain or not.
Okay, yeah, because I have a client who's probably a natural level 5 or 6, and I've talked to you guys about that before, like she still pulls warm, you know, when I use that
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, you can too. If you're dropping down like at a level 5 or 6, you could always use more of the product, but at the end of the day, you're still probably going to have to toner anyway,
yeah.
right?
Yep, I have
You
to
know, so to
Can I ask a
toner
question really
and to
quick?
spell that just sounds a lot, feels like a
Can I
lot.
jump in?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Shauna, have you tried? I know we're like talking about the lighteners right now, but if your client's like a 5 or 6 and you're trying to get more tonal control, have you tried like utilizing the high lift?
No.
If I were you, if she's a 5 or 6 and you're really trying to get like some tonal, like you want to get tone out of your lifting process, I would probably just use the high lift. If she's a 6, you can just use the high lift by itself, but I would probably use like, I think it's the 12.77. Heather, jump in. What is it?
Yeah, the 12771 is going to be a blue base. So if you're working on those lower levels, that's going to be really great because it's going to neutralize orange during the lifting process.
Yeah, and the high lifts are like hands down, they're like the best thing ever, and you get like a ton of deposit out of them. So what I would probably start doing if I were you is maybe instead of like using lightener, because I know that we all have a tendency when we want to make people blonde to like jump right to a bleaching product.
Yeah.
So I think you should probably try like maybe the 12.771, and I'd maybe even put like a quarter of the 12.0s in it. And then I would just use that with double 40. And then, you know, the great thing with that is you can either like process it for like 30 minutes with heat, or you can process it for like up to 60 minutes without heat. So I think
instead of using the bleach on her, if
you can use high lift.
Like, you know, like ashy blonde.
Yes, correct. Because to me, it sounds like what you're shooting for is you want depth from you want some type of tonal value from your lightening process. So that's what I would use. I think you would probably be really happy with that.
And you think it would get her at that?
Oh yeah, are you kidding? Yeah, the high lifts will definitely get you like 5 levels of lift. And if she's like a 5-6, I mean, that puts you at like a 10.
Okay. And if she's still not quite there yet,
I would use the 12.0s as an insurance, like for insurance, because the 12.0s will, like, if in the fact, like you're sitting here like saying she's a 5-6, I would tell you that if she was a 6, I would just use like 12.771 by itself. But if in the event you're kind of afraid that she might be a 5, then, you know, we would always recommend using 12.0s on a level 5 to make sure that you get that hair to a level 10.
Okay. Yeah, because she wants like that picture you have up, that Courtney Rivera, that blonde, wants to add her root.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
So anyways, that was just my recommendation. Sorry.
Oh, that's nice.
Do you mind if I say one thing?
Mind that if we are using a high lift, those are designed to be used on level 6 or lighter. So if we're using that on somebody who is a level 5, we aren't going to get true to swatch results. So a high lift on a level 5 will definitely get you some lightness, but you probably aren't going to get to this mid picture here, okay?
Okay.
Just want to keep that in mind.
Shauna, how long are you processing for with a lightener?
Gosh, probably at least 35 minutes. I mean, she has a lot of hair, and so by the time I'm done applying all over, and then she sits.
Yeah, so you can keep your lightener on for 60 minutes.
Okay.
So 35, honestly, to get a picture like the one that Courtney has on, you're probably most likely pulling it off too early. So I would let it honestly process more of a full 60 minutes. That way you're going to get the most amount of lift that way. Otherwise you're kind of maybe getting, you know, significantly less lift than 7 levels. So there's nothing wrong with leaving it on for 60 minutes. It's safe to just keep checking the integrity of her hair. Don't overlap, things like that. But yeah, definitely leave it on longer.
And what toner, if I still want to just, if she needed that extra little bump?
Yeah, so I know that this picture, Courtney uses the T21S.
Okay.
So what's really nice about the T21S as opposed to the T21 is the T21 is going to give you a blue undertone with that toner, but the T21S is also going to provide a little bit of liftability. So it just shifts any other pigment that may be still in the hair, that really pale yellow. It kind of shifts it out before it actually deposits that blue pigment. And I find that the T21S has a little bit more sheer of a blue pigment than the straight T21.
And do you use converter or 10?
Converter.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, thanks you guys.
you're welcome.
All right. So next up is going to be our System Blonde 6. This was formerly known as Platinum Ice. And this is going to be an ammonia-free cream lightener. So it has a really smooth consistency. And because it is a cream, we're going to want to squeeze the package first. So you'll see on the packaging, it actually says manipulate me first. So you just want to take it and just kind of give it a couple little squeezes. And then you're going to go ahead and mix. So again, this is going to give us up to 6 levels of lift. This has rice and wheat proteins in it, which are going to protect the hair and scalp, but also provide moisture and nourishment. Again, manipulate before use. So this is going to be mixed in equal parts. So 1 part System Blonde 6 to 1 part of any of your developers. So this can be used with 10 volume, 20 volume, 30 volume, or 40 volume. If you're going to use this on the scalp, you can increase this to a 1-to-2 mixture. This is going to be active for up to 60 minutes, suitable for all lightening techniques, and not designed to be used under heat. I actually find myself reaching for this lightener when doing on the scalp lightening. I typically still stick to that 1-to-1 mix ratio just because I like the consistency. But then I always add Vitaplex or Cotoco protein additive just to kind of help with that scalp comfort. So even though it's got that rice and wheat protein in there, which is going to definitely protect the scalp, I just like to give that little extra boost of comfortability with the Cotoco protein additive. And I've never had anybody complain about scalp discomfort when I do that.
So like using this on like short pixies.
Yeah.
Is that cream consistency. I don't even put it in a foil. I just like take my balayage board, put it up against the scalp, paint the System Blonde 6 right onto it, and then just let it lay. And it's nice because it doesn't really dry out. It's just a beautiful consistency. And if it overlaps on something, it's not the end of the world. So it's probably when I reach for that the most, is really, really short hair or like a men's lightening situation.
I actually like to use this for balayage also, just because it is that cream consistency. So it's not going to be drippy or make a huge mess. And I just really like the texture of it to pull through the ends. Here are some examples from the education team. Again, I really like this for on the scalp use because it's so gentle. Heather's got a lovely platinum model down here. Balayage because it's a little thicker, so it kind of stays put. Nancy used it up in this top one as an on the scalp technique as well. But again, you can see it just kind of gives you a variety of lift and is just an overall really nice lightener. So now I am going to talk a little bit about the 10 foil technique. If you've been with us for a while, I'm sure you have seen this technique before. But it is by far one of my favorite techniques for just adding in a little bit of dimension. Or if you have that client that comes in who you have down for a root color and they're like, surprise, I need highlights. And you're like, oh, I don't have time. Well, you do have time if you use this technique, because this is going to give you a really great even distribution of highlights. It's super quick and efficient. You can easily adapt this to include a money piece or have a little more of a face frame. I actually really love this technique for adding in lowlights on a blonde because it just gives you a really nice pop of color. But because when we are doing this, we're leaving a little veil at their part line, it kind of hides that outgrowth. And it's great because on a blonde, we want to feel light and bright, especially around our face, especially off of our part line. So kind of hiding it underneath a little bit is a really great way for me to still get dimension, but still feel super light and bright. So with this technique, I'm literally just going to section off my mohawk section, and then I am going to place 1 foil on each of those perimeters. Okay, so that's our first 4 foils. If your client is parting off to the side, you're just simply going to take your box and shift it so that their part is in the middle. Then for my next 4 foils, I'm going to take from the center of the first foil to the center of the second foil and kind of create a box that we turned a little bit, so more of a diamond rather than a box. And again, I'm just going to place my 4 foils there. And then my last 2 foils are going to be right off the part line. And like I said, I always like to leave just a little bit of a veil in between there. That way I can assure that I don't have any lines or anything else. And it's just going to give me a really nice distribution of highlights. Have any of you guys used this technique before? Heather, I know you like this one.
Yeah, it's my favorite. Honestly, guys, it's one of these techniques where you can't feel bad about charging for a partial foil. Yeah, you're doing 10 foils. Yeah, it's going to take you 10 minutes, but the bang on the buck for it is killer good. The awesome part about this technique is that you're just working off the rounds of the head. So if you put something straight on a round head, it's going to give you a lot of spreadability. So it's where these foils are positioned that makes it seem like there's so much more than 10 foils in it. It is awesome. I love using this too if I have someone that comes in who's pretty blonde through their ends and their root area is like pretty significantly dark, and I can make them look balayage using this technique just by going in and weaving in the 10 foil technique. It breaks up the top section but leaves them with maximum lightness through the ends. Like Kristen said, it is the perfect low light because you don't see where each individual foil starts or ends. It just kind of all shimmers and blends in together, and it gives you the most beautiful diffused blonde look. Literally hands down, I use this for everything and I just modify it. I'll put like, I'll even double it up and do a 20 foil technique. So 10 of those foils will be highlight, 10 will be low light. Yeah, it is. I can't say enough about it. It's a life changer, guys. Save yourself some time. This is about spending your time more efficiently and not spending a ton of time doing a partial foil where it doesn't really matter. To spend a ton of the time, at the back of the head or underneath, they're not going to see that anyway. So just go ahead and do a 10 foil, put a money piece in, and do a couple of, diagonal back slices on the sides. They're not even going to notice. And you can charge a premium for it because it's efficient and you guys know how to place it and do it. So it's hands down the best.
It's working smarter, not harder.
Totally. Absolutely.
Yeah. Definitely by far one of my favorite techniques.
Yeah.
All right. So now we are going to get into our specialty lighteners. So this is blonde. This is a technologically advanced product because it's going to contain our Datum Plus technology. It's a 2-part system. I like to refer to it as if High Lift Color and Lightener had a baby. After all, it is a lightener because you can use it on previously colored hair, but the texture and gentleness is going to be more like a High Lift Color. So Shauna, this might actually be the perfect solution for the client that we were just talking about, because this is going to give you up to 5 levels of lift. It's got that really dreamy consistency, but you can still use this on darker colors.
I've never used this one before.
Oh, it's my favorite.
Really?
They're all my favorite, but so this is going to give you up to 5 levels of lift. It's got the Datum Plus technology, so it's going to protect the hair during lightening. Mixing is, so it's going to come in a cream, which comes in a tube, and then there's a powder sachet and your developer. So you're going to mix 15 grams of the blonde cream, which is going to come in a tube, and then 25 grams of your blonde powder, which comes in a little sachet pre-mixed for you. So you just put in 1 whole sachet, and then you are going to use, it's actually 15 to 30 grams of your chosen developer. This is kind of where you can play with your consistency a little bit. I find myself doing more of the 30 grams of developer. But the really cool thing about this one is it's going to process in just 15 minutes under gentle heat, or you can process this for 30 minutes at room temperature. You can do this on the scalp. If you're doing it on the scalp, we recommend room processing, so 30 minutes. And then on the scalp, we recommend 10 or 20 volume. Again, this is suitable for all lightning techniques. You can use a heat process to accelerate the time, and no heat if on the scalp.
Would you use this if you're not like a fast weaver, because by the time you're done?
Yeah, you totally can. Absolutely.
Like, you know, you've weaved, done a partial weave, and maybe it takes you 45 minutes to do that or whatever, and then you can leave it on for another 30.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, definitely. I find myself reaching for this when I want to use a high lift color, but they have, you know, previously colored hair or virgin hair that's a little darker, so it wouldn't be recommended to use a high lift. I also really love this for balayage because I like it when I don't need to be as aggressive.
The consistency of blonde is like, you know, when you buy like cake mix and then there's like the tub frosting that you get with that too. It is that consistency, which makes it beautiful for balayage. It's really, really nice. I like using this too, you know, when you have situations where you have a client who has a like gray coverage, say they're 100% white and they're a level 8, but then they want like a baby light weaved in. You know that if you go ahead and you do that highlight, the highlight is going to be done significantly sooner than the gray coverage is going to be done. So I love blonde for that reason, because I can let the gray coverage sit in process for like 30 minutes and then the last 15 minutes, or let it process for like half the time, go in and put the highlight in, and then my highlight's just going to stop working, you know, because it's going to do all of its liftability in 15 minutes under heat or 30 at room temp. So I don't really have to worry about it going a lot further. I only need 2 levels of lift. So I can just go ahead and do this as I do my gray coverage, and I don't have to worry about lightener just going through and continually processing while I wait for the gray coverage to do its job.
Yep, definitely. So these are just a few models that I have using blonde. I love this on naturally light hair to help give that like really platinumy result. So my model on the left here is a natural level 7. We usually do just like a traditional foil and then some type of root shadow. And I love blonde because when she comes back in, I can break through anything that's left from her previous root shadow and then do it all over again. And I'm still going to get that really beautiful, gorgeous, even lift out of it. I also really love this on my brunette girls because it's only going to give me up to 5 levels of lift. I can mix this with, you know, my 10 volume, and it's going to give me that really beautiful caramely color. And I'm not going to have to go back in tone. It's super gentle. It's just an all around great product. I also really love using this on the first time highlight. I just feel like it's so gentle. But so my girl here, she's actually 13. This is her first ever highlight. I'm sure you all have those parents or even those clients that come in and are like, well, I don't want bleach on my hair. So for my client here, she's a natural level 5, but we still wanted that really bright, clean lift on her. So I reached for blonde because I didn't think I'd be able to get there with my high lift, but it's a gentler version of a lightener. So mom was happy that I'm not using bleach on her hair. It's a really nice middle ground. My computer is being slow, sorry. All right. So then next up is Spectrum. Spectrum is a great option for up to 5 levels of lift. It's heat activated, so it's great for stylists that like to take a little extra time when applying. It's great for, you know, somebody who's maybe new out of school. It's great for the client that is going to lift super duper fast and you find yourself having to rinse half the head or start pulling foils before you've even finished your application. Pulling foils is by far my least favorite thing to do. So I love that with Spectrum, I can take my time, apply everything, and it's not going to start processing until I place her under a dryer. So this is a 3-part system. You're going to get your powder. There are 6 different toners, and then this actually is going to come with its own set of developers. So we have an 8 volume and a 22 volume. Okay, so it's going to give you up to 5 levels of lift, even through color treated hair. This is an ammonia-free system with Datum Plus technology. So the really great thing about this is it's going to lift and tone all in one step. Okay. It's got a 2 to 12 minute process. So you can take 45 minutes to apply this, pop them under the dryer, and they're going to be done in as little as 2 minutes or as most as 12 minutes. So this is great for like that lunchtime highlight where, you know, you got an hour and a half, but they need a full head of foils. And you're like, how am I going to do that with a haircut? Well, this is no, it's only going to take 12 minutes to process. This is suitable for all techniques in which you can apply heat. So again, this is heat activated. If you are using this on the scalp, we do recommend capping before adding the heat. And again, it's got an 8 volume or a 22 volume. For mixing.
Oops, sorry. The Spectrum, I just put it in the chat too. It is also available in a 30 volume. Shauna, this might be a good alternative for you too, where you're trying to get those 5 levels of lift coming from a level 5, but you need a lot of tonal control as well. This could be a really good option. It's very comfortable on the scalp. And you can go ahead and put in that, you know, the violet or the blue tone. You could even mix them. And that way you would get that liftability that you're looking for that nice cool blonde. But of course, you would also get it with a lot of tonal control as well.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
So mixing for this product is going to be 2 scoops of the powder, 2 scoops of your developer, and then 1 scoop of your chosen toner. If you feel like you need more control, you can go up to 2 scoops of your toner as well. And then this is going to be a heat process for 2 to 12 minutes.
Sorry, one more question on that.
Yeah.
What if I'm putting a color in between the blonde and it only sits on for 12 minutes under the
dryer? Yeah, so I would probably process them separately.
Okay.
So apply your base color. You can let that sit for your 45 minutes, or you can do it under the dryer for 25 minutes, wash that out, and then I would apply this and put them back under the dryer. Because, so if this sits on longer than the 12 minutes, it's all you're going to do is just remove that toner that you just built in. So we definitely want to make sure that we're washing this off after the 12 minutes. Does that make sense?
Yep, thanks.
Yeah, for sure. So this is going to come in 6 different toner options. We've got 3 cool options, which are going to help us control the unwanted warmth, and then 3 warm options, which are going to enhance the warmth. This sheet comes on like the box, or there's like a little insert in there. So it's going to tell you your natural base, so your starting level, what's going to be dominant in the hair, and then which toner we recommend using. So if you're starting on a base 10 or 9, we recommend mixing in the violet. 8, 7, or 6, you're going to want to mix in your blue. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, we are going to be mixing in our green. Okay. 8 volume is going to give us up to 4 levels of lift. The 22 volume is going to give us up to 5 levels of lift. And then you do also have the option of using 30 volume, which is going to give you a maximum of 5 levels of lift. This is just a little sheet about, so your starting base, the developer that you choose, and each toner. It's going to just kind of give you an example of what that is going to look like. Okay, so the shade guide for what you can expect out of each of the toners. This comes in the box as well. So this is Erin. One of the main reasons that I love using Spectrum is because I can get that really multi-tonal dimensional look where I have some warm tones and some cool tones. Typically, if you're using more of a traditional lightener, you're going to lighten everything and then you're going to have to go back in and tone separately. With Spectrum, I can build that all in and do it all in one step. So this is Erin, and that's exactly what I was just talking about. Erin likes to have a lot of different tones going on. So we do a partial foil and I use 2 different formulas, which is going to give me the variation of tones. So I have 2 different formulas. I use them the same amount. So 1 formula 1, 1 formula 2, 1 formula 1, 1 formula 2. And I am using the violet pigment in 1 bowl and then the neutral pigment in another bowl. And that's just going to give us that variation of tone. So I do more of the violet by her face so we can have kind of a cooler money piece, and then just alternate which way how I'm using them as we go back through the head. And you can see it's just going to give us those nice bright pops, but then we have some more kind of subtle, natural looking colors as well.
Guys, in the same way that Kristen uses this to give varying tones to build in dimension, I have found that Spectrum is really, really awesome for corrective work when there's a lot of different blonde banding happening. Sometimes you get a new client, you're like, oh, so we're like a level 10 at the root, and then we're like a 7 on the ends, and we're randomly somehow, you know, a 9 through the ends. You can go ahead and correct those tones in those 2 zones. Then that middle section, use a higher developer to get you up, but also even that out. I just feel like I like using Spectrum for that too, because when you're doing that type of corrective work, it's typically very tedious, and there's no like skipping, right? Kristen, you have to like go through section by section painfully and kind of diagnose each section that's in front of you, and then just work on what you see. So Spectrum's awesome for that, because you're not really going to get that liftability till it goes under heat. So you can take all the time you need without having to worry about, again, like Kristen said, having to like rinse out foils. Nobody wants to do that. Nobody, even if you have an assistant, they don't want to do that. Okay. So Spectrum's great for corrective blonde work like that too.
I don't know if I've ever would have thought to use it like that, Heather. That's a great.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
All right. So then we have Caitlin. This was a model done by Nancy Opdahl. She used 2 different formulas again to give that difference in the tonal look. So she did more of a yellow toner, and then the neutral toner she processed for 12 minutes. And you can see it really does a nice job of giving you that refined warmth rather than that raw lift look. So, I mean, she kind of had like a, I don't know, apricot-y, almost reddish base prior, but just going in with those 2 different formulas and doing a partial highlight, obviously a big haircut, they were able to just get that really nice refined warmth. So you can use it, again, you can either neutralize the warmth or you can work with it. Do you have any other questions on Spectrum?
There was nothing in the chat.
Okay, perfect. Then we will dive into Spirit Lights. So Spirit Lights is going to give you up to 3 levels of lift. This is going to be a 2-part system. This also has pigments that you are going to add into your toner for a built-in toner effect. This one is meant for open air techniques, but you could also put it in foils. When using open air, this product is actually going to dry out, and that's how you're going to know when it's done processing. Okay. So this is going to give you up to 3 levels of lift. So it's going to be more of those like sun-kissed looks. It's a lift and tone system. It's got moisturizing oils and protective corn protein. So that's going to give us the suppleness and protection for the hair. You can use this on and off the scalp. It has variable mixing ratios. I'm going to get into that on the next slide. But the thicker your mix, the less lift you will get. The thinner your mix, the more lift you will get. This is going to process for 20 to 60 minutes. Like I said, you'll know it's done when the product kind of dries out and stiffens. This is suitable for all techniques. You can also, like I said, put this in foils or meshes, and that's just going to give you a teeny tiny little boost in the liftability. But this product is not designed to go under heat. Okay. So for mixing, we've got 3 different ways to mix. We've got a 1 to 1.5 mix ratio, which we call the balayage mix. We've got the 1 to 1 mix ratio, which we call a painting mix, and then a 1.5 to 1, which is our Spirit Lights mix. I find myself using the balayage mix most often. I really like the consistency of it. I personally am not a huge fan of clay lighteners just because I think it's so thick, which is why I think I reach for the 1 to 1.5. Plus, I always want a little more lift. But I'm going to be totally honest. I was a little skeptical about this product when it first came out, but it has quickly become one of my favorites. I find myself reaching for it more and more. It's just so versatile. I love the built-in pigments because it makes my job easier. I love that I can work with a consistency that works for me, but it still gets dried out, so I know when it's done processing.
I think the difference in the pigments too is I feel like Spirit Lights, it's almost like they're pearlized. Do you feel like that, Kristen? Like they're more refined and polished than the Spectrum one. Spectrum's great, don't get me wrong. There's just this like shimmery kind of finish, I guess, to Spirit Lights, which is just, again, it's really mimicking sun-kissed lightness in the hair. So I feel like it kind of has that. I personally love the one-to-one mix. I prefer to hand paint more than balayage. But Spirit Lights in a foil too is just beautiful. You're going to get more levels of liftability if it's put into a foil again. But really the main difference between the Spirit Lights and the Spectrum is one requires heat, one is no heat. So depending on how you're processing, you would choose from there on. That might be a good option too, Shauna, because instead of having to process someone for gray coverage, pull them out and then put the Spectrum in, you could do the Spirit Lights at once, process all at room temperature, and then you'd be done.
So we have 4 pigments with this we can utilize. So we're going to get a blue, which is of course going to reduce orange and yellow tones. We've got a violet/silver, which is going to reduce yellow tones. We've got a brown, which is going to give us like a natural warm tone, and then a beige, which is going to give us more subtle warmer tones. The really cool thing about this product is this little ditty here comes on each box of the pigments. So trying to measure out your pigment is super easy. You're literally just going to squeeze it on the box that the tube comes in and flick it right in your bowl. So it has the measuring guide on there for you. It's going to tell you which base it's recommended to be used on. You can totally blend these together. You can use them individually. You can create multi-tonal looks with this if you have, 2 separate bowls. Just an all-around great versatile product. So for our model for this one, we've got Aubrey. So for her, I actually used a one-to-one painting mix. So I did 40 grams of my Spirit Lights powder, 40 grams of my developer, and then I actually mixed the beige and violet pigment because I still wanted her to be a little on the warmer side, but I needed a little bit of that violet just to kind of help refine it. She wanted something super beachy and sun-kissed, so this is what I reached for.
Like the perfect blonde.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yep. So Aubrey actually had some old highlights in her hair, and then it had been about 4 months since her last appointment. And at that time, we had used 6036 and converter because it was winter. And then that faded out. She came in. I used our Fallen Halo technique, which is another one that I totally love. I don't have a slide on it. But if you guys look at my Instagram page, there is a ton of information on that. You just have to scroll down a little bit. I already told you what my mix was, but yeah, this is Aubrey. This is what she got. It's just a really nice balanced look with mixing those 2 toners together.
Would you use Spirit Lights on, like if you have a client, I have another client who's, like a chocolate brown, and she wants just a little bit of low lights in there, but she doesn't want to see, the warm low lights, or you could like counteract and use your different.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. So if she doesn't want to see any warmth, I would probably go in with more of the blue toner because that's going to be your strongest, kick out the most warmth. And if you needed to, you could still tone afterwards. But I have found that I have never needed to tone after using this.
I mean, because it's hard to get like, with my other client I was talking about, 5 different lighteners, like just see which one, maybe this might be more versatile for.
Yeah, definitely. So like this one's designed to give you up to 3 levels of lift.
Okay.
But honestly, if you put it in a foil, you can get probably 4, maybe 5 levels of lift out of it, just because it's going to kind of incubate it a little bit.
I can totally safely say 5 levels that in my experience, because I actually foil with this a ton. even through like difficult hair types, I feel very comfortable to have a lot of assurance that I can go in there and get like 5 levels of lift. Anything after that's pushing it a little bit, but yeah, just I can't enforce enough how much little pigment you need to use. If you overuse this and you just like squirt it and you're like, yeah, I guess that's a centimeter, especially when you're doing this in foils, okay, you really can turn the hair whatever color you're mixing it in. I know because I've done it. Okay. The test round of Spirit Lights for Heather, you know, they send it to me, let's play with it, blah, blah, you can put it in a foil, went for it. Yeah. So Amanda too actually did it. We both got way more liftability than we thought we would with Spirit Lights, which is A, awesome, but B, like, yeah, scale back on that pigment. Like that measuring guide's there for a reason, and it's actually super efficient through our testing that a little bit goes a very long way.
It definitely does. It definitely does. For measuring that out too, if you use our black affinage bowls, on the bottom inside the bowl, it actually has centimeters on like a little chart in there as well. So sometimes I'll just use that rather than the box, but for sure, definitely want to make sure you are measuring it, because I also have turned people's hair the wrong way.
Yep. It's just no joke. That's all. You just have to respect it, I guess.
I love that though. So this is another example. So this is Kate. Kate was actually our live model for a class that we did a few months ago. It was actually the Lighten and Illuminate class. But you can see like, this is definitely more than 3 levels of lift, right? I mean, she's like a natural level 5. I've got the ring light on her, but in real life, she's just a little bit darker looking than this. But I did the balayage mix, which is the 1 to 1.5 mix ratio, and I used the 2 centimeters of the blue pigment. She does have hot shots on her hair, but we're going to get into why I did that in just a minute, but there really was no need to tone her. So again, she's pretty dark. That blue is just going to go in and neutralize any of that unwanted warmth and leave us with a really lovely sun-kissed look. So do we have any questions on any of the lighteners that we've talked about?
Nothing in the chat, but good questions are coming up. So guys, don't be shy. If you have questions, go ahead and ask.
Is anybody inspired to try a new lightener that we talked about? I hope so.
What about Holly? Holly Gagnon, talk to me. You're so intently listening. I love every single second of it. So I just have to know your thoughts.
I mean, I want them all.
Yeah, right.
I feel like everyone has its own place, which is so great. And it's nice to see so much versatility. So I'm really excited to experiment.
Good.
Also, I really love the blonde also for color corrections too, just because it is also so gentle. I was going to say that too before, but
yeah. I love that product. It's just beautiful. And on like a deeper base, it gives the most beautiful like sun-kissed caramel colors. It's just not as widely used, but it definitely has a place. And if you start to use it, you find that place and you love it. And Rena said she will also be trying out the Spirit Lights, but of course she loves them all, which is great. And she said she also will be using Spectrum now moving forward. So this is awesome, Kristen.
Super excited. All right, so next up we are going to talk about illuminating after we've done our lightening. So the word illuminate literally means to embellish, enhance, or brighten. So an obvious choice after you've done a lightener would be your traditional toner. So either one of our toning options, our metallic toners, or even our Infinity with converter. We have so many wonderful options for that, but I want to talk a little more specifically about our semi-permanent options. So this is Hot Shots. These are going to be available in 8 stunning shades. These are going to illuminate and intensify natural or color treated hair. These are going to process anywhere from 3 to 20 minutes. These are just a really great way to kind of enhance that like faded color. They're super conditioning. They're going to help induce shine. These are formulated with argan oil and shea butter, so they're going to be super nourishing. They're also going to strengthen and protect the hair. And it's just going to help deliver beautiful, even color results. So these are ammonia and peroxide free. Like I said, they're going to process for 3 to 20 minutes, which makes these perfect for applying at the bowl. These are going to last anywhere from 6 to 10 shampoos. They're super easy to use. They're not going to leave any regrowth, and they're just going to kind of naturally pastelize out of the hair. Okay, so our shade options are hot chocolate, true copper, burnt copper, quicksilver, ice chestnut, sand blonde, red chili, and aubergine. This is going to come on your shade fan. It's going to tell you each shade, and then it's going to give you the recommended base to use it on and what your result is going to be. When you're using this on pre-lightened hair, you're going to get a little more of a vibrant tone. And on some of the swatches, you'll definitely see, like on the fan where the hair is, there's a part where it says pre-lightened and then a part where it says the base that they used it on. And you'll be able to actually see that when you use this on pre-lightened hair, you're definitely going to get a brighter, more vibrant result. Okay. Another thing that I really love about the hot shots is that you can actually retail these to your client and send them home with a custom conditioner. Okay.
I actually low light with these a ton, guys. Especially talking about blondes and lightening all the time. There's also those blondes that want to be low lighted. They think they never actually do, because they usually call back in 5 days and we have to take it out, which is the most fun activity. So especially the girls that I know don't really want it, but they think they do, I'll actually go in with the hot shots, like the iced chestnut, and I'll dilute it out so I get a nice soft brown, or I'll do that with the hot chocolate as well. And I will low light them with hot shots. And then if they don't like it, they can wash their hair and it will just slowly come out of the hair. But especially like transitioning into like fall time, when they think they want a little bit more of that depth out, and we've done this for 5 years in a row. Having to take it out and in and out, I will just low light them in with the hot shots. It gives them a little bit of a change, and by the time they're over it, it's out of the hair. So it's a really great alternative for that too. Or if you have a guest that just wants to like try out low lights, they just don't want to commit to something like that, just foil it into the hair. It's awesome. Same thing with the reds. If you have people that, you know, maybe they think they want to bring some more warmth into their hair, but they're non-committal, it's a great alternative that way. Kristen, I just wanted to stop for 1 second. We had a question. System 9, can you use the anti-yellow additive in? She said that feels like there's so many different system blondes. The anti-yellow additive, guys, can be used in any lightener, anything. So use it where you feel like you need it. There's no restrictions on where that anti-yellow additive can be used. All right, continue on, Kristen, sorry.
No, that's all good. So hot shots is super easy to use. Step 1, you are going to shampoo and towel dry the hair. Step 2, you are going to put your gloves on and then apply to the hair. You can do this, like I said, just at the bowl. You can just kind of massage it in, comb it through. You can apply this with a bowl and brush, put it in a foil. However your little heart desires, there's no wrong way to do it. It doesn't get mixed with a developer. It just comes right out of the tube or the little pouch. You're going to apply it to the hair, and then it's going to process for 3 to 20 minutes. The longer you process, the longer it will last. Okay. Step 3 is rinse it out. Because we're not mixing it with a developer, there's no need to shampoo. So just make sure you give your clients a really good rinse. I always like to follow up with conditioner because I do a little bit of a head massage, but these are so conditioning and make your hair so soft and shiny that there really is no need to condition after. I just do because I like to give them a little head massage. The only thing that I do like to kind of warn my clients about is that after using these, when they go home and wash their hair, they may have a little bit of that residual color that kind of comes out. So I know, especially when I'm using something like the red chili or even like the hot chocolate, I'll have clients text me and be like, oh, my color is falling out. And I'll be like, nope, that's okay. Like that, it's supposed to do that because it's meant to kind of wash out of the hair. So I just like to warn everybody, you may see some of that. Don't panic. It's normal. Okay.
I always tell them don't use white pillowcases or go to the gym and be sweating with your hair down.
Yep, exactly. So this is a model that was done by Nancy. She used red chili on its own, and then she mixed a combo of burnt copper and true copper. She did a color melting technique and then just kind of alternated the different ribbons of colors through the ends. So this is her final result. I love how this color just really makes this client's eyes pop. But the best part is this is just going to gradually pastelize out of the hair. So the next time that this client comes in, they're still going to be able to switch things up. She doesn't have to commit to being a redhead. Just a really nice way to try something on without having to commit. This client was actually pregnant when they did this, which is why they chose to do it. She didn't want to put actual color on her hair. So something like Hot Shots, which is more of a tinted conditioner, if you will, because it's a semi-permanent and it's not being mixed with anything else, you could safely put this on even if you're pregnant.
I love these two, the Bee Reds, guys. When you use the Bee Reds, they have the Bee Red refreshers to keep that hair color nice and vibrant and up. I personally find that I just find them a little bit more drying. So I will actually, specifically for my Bee Red and my Bee Red Violet girls, I'll use the Hot Shots to refresh them instead. It's like having an intense conditioning treatment, but they're still getting that deposit only color like they would out of the Bee Reds. Plus the tubes for Bee Reds is the refreshers are only 2 ounces. So they just don't go as far. The Hot Shots, you can use a little bit of it, and because it's like a conditioner, it really glides through the hair beautifully. So your cost per application is actually going to be less on something like that. And if I'm doing like the Red Violet, I'll just pop some aubergine in the red chili. Or my copper girls, I love the true copper as a refresher instead of the Bee Red copper. So there's a lot of flexibility that way. The question that Caroline had, when it fades, will it fade the same as the ASP semis? Yes. You'll get about 6 to 10 shampoos out of it, and it's going to fade out on tone, which is really nice. So like Kristen was saying about this redhead, she's just slowly going to pastelize out, which is awesome.
I really like that it kind of stays true to tone as it pastalizes out. Like it doesn't get any of those like funky salmon color.
Yes.
Like it stays a really pretty, just lighter version of itself.
Absolutely.
All right. So another great way to use these are to just kind of assist in growing out a gray. So this is Kathy. She'd been getting highlights to blend out her gray, but then COVID hit and she decided to stop coloring. And then she actually had a class reunion and was worried that she was going to look old, but didn't want to go back to actually coloring her hair. So the Hot Shots was the perfect way for us to put some color back in her hair, but not necessarily go against growing out her gray. So you can see her before. She's got tons of outgrowth. I mixed the sand blonde and the hot chocolate, applied to her towel dried hair, processed her for 20 minutes. She went off to her reunion, got to feel young, look great. It's not gonna, there's no line of demarcation. It's just gonna gradually pastelize out of the hair. Another thing that I really love about these is that you can make a custom shade by mixing 2 of them together or 3 of them together. You could also intermix these with anything from the Color Dynamics line because they are all semi-permanent. They are completely customizable. Sometimes I will mix the pastelizer with these as well, just to give me a more diluted version. So like Heather was talking about when she's low lighting on a blonde, I love to either just use sand blonde, or I actually like to dilute the ice chestnut with just a little bit of pastelizer and use that as a low light also. So totally customizable. And then our last model is Mannequin Deb here. So Hot Shots, they're a great way to be able to like try something a little more fun without the commitment. With our spring trends this year, spring trends are full of bright colors. Everybody's got little pops of fun. We're calling them spring blooms. So using something like aubergine over a pre-lightened hair is going to give you just that little bright pop of color. But again, you don't have to commit to it. Only going to last 6 to 10 shampoos. It's a great way to add in some seasonal fun, or even, on the young girls that really want something fun for summer, but mom doesn't really want them to color their hair, this is a great alternative to, again, just having a little bit of fun. But the other thing about Hot Shots, so these are actually a really great way to ensure longevity of your toner. So we have a layering technique that we do, and I actually just did this on a client on Saturday. We highlighted her naturally brunette hair. I toned her with 7.35 in converter just to give her like a really beautiful copper golden kind of color. And then I layered sand blonde, which is a little bit of burnt copper on top of it. It didn't change the tonality of her hair. It just gave us a little extra pigment just to help ensure that longevity. Made her hair super shiny, super soft. It's great because she was going on vacation, so she's going to be laying out in the sun. She's going to be in and out of the water. This just gives her a few extra shampoos before her color is going to start to fade. So I really love being able to layer that on and just getting that extra longevity. And again, it's a great extra 20 bucks, 30 bucks, whatever you charge for it at the bowl.
And what's nice, Kristen, like you're going to condition her anyway, right?
Right.
Like, so it takes nothing to just pop a little bit of that color in and condition her that way to give her that little extra. So it's just simple to reach for and use. You don't have to go back and mix something up or wait for it to do its thing. It's just ready to go.
Yep, totally. Love it. Do we have any questions or any comments?
No questions in the chat right now. Yeah, just people have a lot of love for these lighteners.
All right, perfect. I like to hear. So just a quick reminder of the rest of the virtual class offerings that we have available for the rest of the year. Our next virtual class is going to be from our Cutting Academy. So it's going to be Nancy Opdahl showcasing a curly haircut. This is going to be on Monday, June 27th at the same time as today. So